Hello everyone, and welcome back. In this video, we are starting part 4 of Atomic Habits, the third law, make it easy. If you've been with us so far, we've already learned why habits matter, how they connect to our identity, and how to make them obvious and attractive. Now, in this section, we're going to discover one of the most powerful truths about behavior change. Good habits don't need to be hard. They need to be easy. Think about it. Most of the things we do every day, like scrolling on our phones, watching TV, or checking social media, don't require much effort. They're easy, convenient, and always just one click away. That's why they stick so quickly. Meanwhile, the habits that could truly change our lives, like exercising, eating well, or reading, often feel complicated, tiring, or inconvenient. Part 4 teaches us how to flip this around. Instead of relying on motivation or willpower, we'll learn to design our lives in a way that makes good habits simple and smooth, while making bad habits harder to do. It's about reducing friction for the habits we want and increasing friction for the ones we don't. Across the next 4 chapters, James Clear shows us why repetition matters more than perfection. You don't need the perfect plan, you just need to keep practicing until it becomes automatic. How to use the law of least effort. Humans naturally choose the easiest option, so make sure the easiest option is the good habit. The power of the 2-minute rule. This clever strategy helps you master the art of starting by shrinking new habits into something so small, you can't say no. And finally, how to make good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible through smart systems, commitment devices, and even automation. The big idea of this part is simple: don't make change harder than it has to be. If you want habits to last, design them to be easy enough that you'll do them even when you don't feel motivated. So, get ready as we dive into part 4, the third law, make it easy. By the end of this section, you'll know how to set up your life so that the right choices become the natural, obvious, and effortless ones. And before we jump in, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you won't miss the upcoming summaries. Let's begin. Chapter 11, James Clear introduces the third law of behavior change, make it easy. The big idea here is simple. If you want a new habit to stick, don't wait for the perfect plan, just start taking action and repeat it often. Let's break it down. The photography class story. A professor at the University of Florida divided his photography students into 2 groups. One group was graded on quantity. The more photos they took, the better the grade. The other group was graded on quality. They only had to submit 1 perfect photo at the end of the term. The surprising result? All the best photos came from the quantity group. Why? Because they spent their time taking pictures, experimenting, and learning from mistakes. Meanwhile, the quality group wasted time theorizing and chasing perfection, and ended up with only mediocre photos. The lesson is clear: practice and repetition beat endless planning. If you want to master a habit, you need to start doing it, not just thinking about it. Motion versus action. James Clear makes an important distinction. Motion equals preparing, planning, or researching. Action equals doing the actual behavior. For example, writing a list of workout plans is motion. Going to the gym is action. Researching diets is motion. Eating a healthy meal is action. Brainstorming ideas is motion. Publishing an article is action. Motion feels productive because it gives the sense of progress, but it doesn't produce results. We often choose motion to avoid the risk of failure. But motion without action is just procrastination in disguise. If you want real change, you must focus on action. Habits are built by doing, not by overthinking. The power of repetition. So, how do habits actually form? Through repetition. Every time you repeat a behavior, your brain strengthens the pathways that support it. Scientists call this neurons that fire together, wire together. Examples from research. Musicians have larger brain regions that handle movement because they practice daily. Mathematicians' brains adapt in areas linked to calculation. London taxi drivers, who memorize complex city maps, have bigger memory centers in their brains. The more you repeat something, the more natural and automatic it becomes. Just like lifting weights builds muscle, repeating a habit strengthens the brain connections that support it. How long does it take to build a habit? One of the most common questions is, how long does it take to form a new habit? The truth is, it's not about days or weeks. It's about how many repetitions you do. Doing something 200 times in 1 month will build a stronger habit than doing it twice in 30 days. It's the frequency of practice, not the passage of time, that creates automaticity. This explains why habits don't just suddenly click after 21 or 30 days. They become automatic when you've practiced them enough times that your brain recognizes them as normal behavior. Automaticity, from effort to ease. At first, a habit takes effort and focus. Over time, with enough practice, it becomes automatic. This process is called automaticity. Think of learning to drive a car. At first, you consciously think about every step. After practice, you can drive almost without thinking. The same is true for any habit. Repetition moves the habit from being effortful to effortless. Chapter 11 shows us that real progress doesn't come from waiting for the perfect moment. It comes from showing up and practicing again and again. If you want to build better habits, start small, focus on repetition, and remember, it's better to walk slowly forward than to stand still chasing perfection. This is the beginning of the third law: make it easy. In the next chapters, we'll see more strategies for simplifying habits and removing friction so change becomes effortless. Chapter 12, James Clear introduces an important truth about human behavior. We naturally follow the path of least resistance. When something is easy, we tend to do it. When it's difficult, we avoid it. This is the essence of the third law of behavior change: make it easy. A lesson from geography. To explain this, Clear shares a fascinating idea from the book Guns, Germs, and Steel. Agriculture spread much faster across Europe and Asia than in the Americas. Why? Because Europe and Asia stretch east to west, which means similar climates across large regions. Farmers could grow the same crops from France to China without major changes. But in the Americas, the land stretches north to south. Climate changes drastically between Florida and Canada. Farmers had to keep finding new crops to survive. That extra friction slowed progress. The point is simple: progress happens faster when the path is smoother. This principle applies not just to farming, but also to habits. The law of least effort. As humans, we're not lazy in a negative sense, we're energy conscious. Our brains are designed to conserve effort. When given two options, we almost always choose the easier one. It's easier to watch TV than to go for a run. It's easier to order fast food than to cook a meal. It's easier to scroll on your phone than to read a book. That doesn't mean we can't do hard things. People run marathons, climb mountains, and raise children. But here's the catch: on the hard days, when motivation is low, the easier option usually wins. That's why making good habits easy, and bad habits difficult, is so important. Small effort wins. Think about doing 100 push-ups a day. It takes a huge amount of energy and motivation. You might manage it for a few days, but eventually it feels overwhelming. On the other hand, doing just one push-up takes almost no effort, so you're more likely to stick with it. And once you start with one, you often feel like doing more. This is the power of reducing friction. The easier the habit, the more consistent you'll be. The hose analogy. Clear compares this to a garden hose. Imagine the hose is bent. You could force more water through by cranking up the pressure, but it takes effort. Or you could simply remove the bend and let water flow naturally. That's what environment design does for habits. Instead of trying to push yourself with endless motivation, you remove friction so the behavior flows smoothly. Environment design. One of the best ways to make habits easy is to design your surroundings. Place good habits on the path of your daily routine. If your gym is on the way to work, you're more likely to go. If it's out of the way, you'll skip it. Reduce friction at home. If you want to eat healthy, chop vegetables in advance and keep them ready. If you want to exercise, set out your workout clothes the night before. Prime your environment. Prepare the space for the next action. Leave pens and notebooks on your desk if you want to draw. Put the skillet on the stove the night before if you want to cook breakfast. These small setups lower the barrier to starting, which is the hardest part of any habit. Addition by subtraction. The Japanese electronics industry in the 1970s is a good example. Companies improved efficiency by eliminating wasted steps in production. Fewer movements meant faster, more reliable products. This principle works in life too. Remove unnecessary friction and success comes more easily. Businesses, governments, and apps also use this principle. Meal delivery apps remove the effort of grocery shopping. Ride-sharing reduces the hassle of finding a taxi. Tax agencies increased compliance simply by linking directly to the correct form instead of making people download it. The easier something is, the more people will do it. Make bad habits harder. Just as you can make good habits easier, you can make bad ones harder. Unplug the TV after use so you don't watch mindlessly. Keep your phone in another room to avoid constant checking. Hide junk food at the back of the fridge or remove it from the house. Even a little extra friction can stop you from acting on autopilot. Chapter 12 reminds us that success doesn't come from willpower alone. It comes from designing a world where the right actions are the easiest ones to take. If you want better habits, remove friction, prime your environment, and follow the law of least effort. This is the heart of the third law: make it easy. Chapter 13, James Clear introduces a powerful tool to fight procrastination, the 2-minute rule. It's simple, practical, and helps us build habits that actually last. Rituals and decisive moments. The chapter starts with the story of Twyla Tharp, one of the world's greatest dancers and choreographers. She explains that her daily ritual wasn't the workout itself, but the simple act of hailing a cab to go to the gym. Once she did that, everything else followed naturally. This shows us that tiny starting actions matter most. Habits are not just routines, they are entry points that lead to bigger outcomes. Every day, we face decisive moments, those little forks in the road that shape how the rest of the day goes. For example, do you put on workout clothes or stay in your pajamas? Do you open your notes or open a video game? Do you cook a meal or order takeout? Each small choice sets the stage for what comes next. That's why building a system that makes the first choice easy is so important. The 2-minute rule. So, how do we make starting easy? Enter the 2-minute rule. The rule says, when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. That means instead of focusing on the big outcome, we focus on the tiny gateway habit. Read before bed becomes read 1 page. Run 3 miles becomes put on running shoes. Do 30 minutes of yoga becomes roll out the mat. Study for class becomes open your notebook. These actions are so simple that anyone can do them. And once you start, it's much easier to continue. The key lesson: habits must be established before they can be improved. First, master the art of showing up. Only after that can you optimize or expand. Gateway habits and scaling up. The 2-minute rule works because it creates gateway habits, tiny steps that open the door to bigger actions. Think of goals on a scale. Very easy, put on running shoes. Easy, walk for 10 minutes. Moderate, walk 10,000 steps. Hard, run a 5K. Very hard, run a marathon. You don't jump straight to the marathon. You start by mastering the easiest step, then move up. This process is called habit shaping. By gradually scaling up, you move from very easy actions to bigger goals, without burning out. Real-life examples. One man lost over 100 pounds using this strategy. At first, he went to the gym but only allowed himself to stay for 5 minutes. Once it became a routine, he naturally stayed longer. Years later, the weight was gone. Another example is journaling. Many people quit because it feels like a chore. Instead, write just one sentence. Stop before it feels like work. This makes the habit sustainable. Writers like Ernest Hemingway followed a similar rule: stop while things are going well. That way, starting again tomorrow is easy. Why it works? The 2-minute rule may feel like a trick. After all, nobody wants to read just one page forever. But the goal isn't the page, it's the identity you build. One push-up still casts a vote for being someone who exercises. One sentence still makes you a writer. One page still makes you a reader. Small actions confirm your new identity. They reinforce the type of person you want to become. And remember, doing something is always better than doing nothing. One page is better than no reading at all. The message of this chapter is clear: stop focusing on doing it all at once, just start. Master the first 2 minutes, and let momentum carry you forward. Habits don't need to be perfect in the beginning. They just need to exist. So, the next time you feel stuck or tempted to procrastinate, ask yourself, what's the 2-minute version of this habit? Then do it. Chapter 14. James Clear shows us how to flip the third law of behavior change. Instead of just making good habits easy, we can also make bad habits difficult, or even impossible. This is where habits truly stick for the long term. Victor Hugo's strange strategy. The chapter begins with the story of Victor Hugo, the French author of The Hunchback of Notre Dame. He was facing a tough deadline, but instead of writing, he kept wasting time. To force himself to focus, he did something unusual. He locked away all his clothes except for a big shawl. Without proper clothing, he couldn't leave the house. Stuck inside, he finally finished his book 2 weeks early. This is a great example of creating a commitment device, a choice you make now that limits your future options. By raising the difficulty of doing the wrong thing, you make it easier to do the right thing. What are commitment devices? Commitment devices are tools or decisions that bind your future behavior. Some examples include splitting a meal before it arrives at your table to avoid overeating. Paying ahead for a class so skipping it feels wasteful. Athletes leaving wallets at home before competitions so they can't buy junk food. People adding themselves to casino ban lists to prevent gambling. The idea is simple: make bad habits hard and good habits easier. The power of one-time choices. The story of John Henry Patterson, a store owner in the 1800s, shows this well. His employees were stealing money because there was no way to track sales. Then he discovered a new invention, the cash register. Once he installed it, theft stopped immediately. He later bought the company that made them, which became National Cash Register, a huge success. The lesson: some actions, like installing a cash register, automate good behavior forever. You don't need willpower if the system makes the right choice automatic. Clear calls these one-time actions. There's simple steps that keep paying off. Nutrition: buy a water filter, use smaller plates. Sleep: get blackout curtains, remove your TV from the bedroom. Productivity: unsubscribe from emails, turn off phone notifications. Finances: set up automatic bill pay, or automatic savings. These small setups make it easier to stick with the right choices without daily effort. Using technology to automate good habits. Technology can be a friend or enemy. When used well, it makes positive habits automatic. Prescriptions can be auto-refilled. Bills can be paid automatically. Social media can be blocked with timers or website blockers. Meal kits can deliver groceries, making healthy eating easier. The more we automate, the fewer decisions we have to make, and the more energy we save for things that matter. As philosopher Alfred North Whitehead said, civilization advances by extending the number of operations we can perform without thinking about them. But there's also a downside. Technology can trap us in bad habits because it removes all friction. Autoplay keeps us binge-watching. Food delivery removes effort so we overeat. Social media apps are designed to keep us hooked. If it's too easy, we may waste hours on small impulses instead of meaningful work. Make bad habits impossible. To regain control, Clear suggests adding friction to your bad habits. For example, hide your phone in another room until lunch. Unplug your TV or remove batteries from the remote. Delete social media apps and only log in on your computer. Have a friend reset your passwords weekly so you can't access distracting sites. Even small obstacles, like an extra 10 seconds of effort, can be enough to break the cycle of mindless behavior. So, the lesson of this chapter is simple but powerful. Don't just rely on willpower. Instead, design your life so the right actions are the default choice. Use commitment devices, smart one-time setups, and technology to automate good habits. At the same time, add barriers to the habits you want to avoid. When your environment is designed well, success is not just possible, it's almost guaranteed. We've now reached the conclusion of Part 4 of Atomic Habits, the third law, make it easy. This law is all about removing barriers, reducing friction, and making good habits so simple that they are hard to ignore. Over the past 4 chapters, we've learned why convenience, repetition, and design are the real drivers of lasting change. Let's quickly review what we discovered. Chapter 11, Walk slowly, but never backward. Here, we learn the difference between motion and action. Motion is planning, preparing, or thinking about doing something. Action is actually doing it. Many people get stuck in motion because it feels safe and avoids failure. But true change happens only when we take action, even if it's messy or imperfect. The lesson: don't aim for perfection, aim for repetition. Every time you repeat a habit, your brain wires it in more deeply. It's the reps that count, not the flawless plan. Chapter 12, The Law of Least Effort. This chapter taught us that human beings naturally choose the path that requires the least energy. This isn't laziness, it's survival. So, if you want to stick with a habit, don't rely on motivation alone. Instead, make it the easiest option available. Simple tweaks like preparing your gym clothes the night before, keeping healthy snacks ready, or putting your phone in another room can make all the difference. When friction is low, habits flow. Chapter 13, The 2-Minute Rule. In this chapter, James Clear gave us one of the most practical tools, the 2-minute rule. It says that when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes. Read 1 page, tie your running shoes, write 1 sentence. These are gateway habits that make it easy to show up. Once you begin, momentum carries you forward. The rule is not about doing the whole task at once but about mastering the art of starting. Chapter 14, How to Make Good Habits Inevitable and Bad Habits Impossible. Finally, we saw how to take things even further with commitment devices and automation. By locking in your good habits and adding friction to your bad ones, you design an environment where the right choice becomes the automatic choice. Whether it's unsubscribing from emails, setting up automatic savings, using timers to cut off distractions, or even having a friend lock away temptations, these small steps make good habits inevitable and bad habits nearly impossible. The big picture of Part 4. When we combine these 4 lessons, the message is clear. Action beats planning. Repetition builds habits. Convenience drives consistency. Friction shapes behavior. Smart design removes the need for willpower. The third law reminds us that success isn't about being superhuman. It's about making the good things easy and the bad things hard. So, as we wrap up part 4, remember this: your habits don't change just because you want them to. They change because your environment, routines, and systems are set up to support them. If you make the right actions easy, your habits will take care of themselves. Thank you so much for following along in this journey through the third law of atomic habits. If this video helped you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you won't miss part 5, where we'll explore the fourth law, make it satisfying. Until then, keep it simple, keep it easy, and keep building those tiny habits that lead to big results.